Hey everyone, welcome back to another We in Law Explainer. So today we're tackling a really universal, honestly kind of stressful real-world anxiety that hits almost every family. It's that monumental moment when you turn 18, right? You legally become an adult, but suddenly you're staring down the massive barrel of funding your university education. And the big question is, who's actually responsible for footing that bill? I want you to just think about this for a second. Whether you're a student or a parent watching, are moms and dads just legally off the hook for school fees the absolute second their kid blows out their 18th birthday candles? Like, does crossing that legal threshold of adulthood mean parents can just snap their wallet shut? Well, the answers hidden in family law are probably going to surprise you. All right, here's our agenda for today's explainer. 1. Adulthood and university costs. 2. The Kenyan ruling, SMG v. EKO. 3. The catch in Nigerian law. 4. Why students must seek government loans. And 5. Balancing the financial burden. Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, Adulthood and University Costs. This is the classic 18-year-old dilemma. So, ordinarily, parental maintenance obligations naturally ease up the moment a child reaches the legal age of majority, which is 18. But let's be real here. Reaching adulthood doesn't magically drop a pile of cash into your bank account to pay for a degree. Turning 18 doesn't automatically make a young person financially self-sufficient, especially not in today's world where tertiary education is often absolutely essential for getting a job and building a future. So we're left with this massive gray area between being a legal adult and being an independent adult. Moving on to Section 2, the Kenyan ruling of SMG v. EKA, a major landmark precedent. Let's dive into this by taking a quick trip over to East Africa to see how a really fascinating legal battle tackled this exact problem head-on. In this landmark Kenyan case, SMG v. EK, a father argued pretty heavily to the court that his legal obligation to support his child financially had completely ended. Why? Well, simply because she had crossed the threshold into adulthood. He didn't just flatly refuse to help her out of nowhere, but his legal argument was that since she was now 18, under normal circumstances, his mandatory parental duty was finished. But, and this brilliantly illustrates how the law adapts to modern realities, the judge said no. Justice Helene R. Namisi rejected the father's absolute stance. She relied on Section 35(1) of the Kenyan Children Act, declaring that full-time enrollment in a university or college actually creates special circumstances or special reasons under the law. This specific provision gives courts the power to extend parental support well beyond the age of 18. So yeah, pursuing a degree is legally recognized as a valid reason to keep your parents on the financial hook. Just as the Kenyan courts recognized, turning 18 does not automatically make you financially self-sufficient. Real quick, before we cross borders to see how this plays out in Nigeria, I just want to remind all the students, parents, and curious minds watching to go ahead and subscribe to the We in Law channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our civic education breakdowns. All right, Section 3, the catch in Nigerian law. They take a slightly different approach. What's super interesting here is how Nigerian law reaches a very similar destination to Kenya, but they take a completely different road to get there. Under Section 277 of the Nigerian Child's Rights Act of 2003, a child is strictly defined as anyone below 18, period. There is zero room for an adult student to claim child maintenance as a direct right under that specific law. However, Nigerian judges use a different tool, Section 70 of the Matrimonial Causes Act. This gives courts really wide powers to order parents to pay for the education of the children of the marriage past age 18, or even up to 21 for university study. But you guessed it, there's a catch. And that catch is a pretty big procedural hurdle. Section 70 provides what lawyers call ancillary relief. For the secondary school students watching, just think of it literally like a side quest in a video game. You can't play the side quest unless you're already playing the main game. A legal claim for ancillary relief cannot stand on its own. This means an 18-year-old in Nigeria can't just stroll into court and file a standalone lawsuit against their happily married parents demanding school fees. The strict age cap in the Child's Rights Act blocks that direct action. So how does this actually work? Well, to get that ancillary relief, there has to be a matrimonial cause actively happening. Essentially, the court can only step in and force parents to pay an adult kid's university fees if those parents are already in the middle of a formal legal battle, like a divorce, a legal separation, or an annulment. Only within that active matrimonial suit can the court trigger Section 70 to cover those tertiary education expenses. And when they do, Nigerian family courts always tie it back to Section 1 of the Child's Rights Act, making absolutely sure the best interest of the child remains paramount, even if the parents' marriage is breaking down.
Which brings us to Section 4. Students must seek government loans. This is your legal duty.
Now, I want to pivot a bit and speak directly to the students watching. You can't just sit back and demand cash. During that Kenyan trial we were talking about earlier, some incredibly relatable evidence came out. The 18-year-old daughter actually refused to apply for government student loans. And why? Because she'd heard unverified WhatsApp-style rumors that the government funds were unavailable. I mean, we've all been there with those rumors, right? But the judge was not amused. She ruled that you absolutely cannot just reject state-subsidized funding based on gossip and expect your parents to shoulder the entire burden alone.
Justice Namisi laid down a really strict rule here. Adult students who want their parents to pay for their university education have a legal duty to help reduce the financial load. You literally have to actively apply for available government loans, grants, and scholarships. And this is so relevant for Nigeria right now. With the recent creation of NELFund, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, under the Student Loans Act, Nigerian courts handling those messy matrimonial cases can apply this exact same principle. The court can legally insist that you, the adult student, apply for NELFund first to lower the financial strain on your divorcing parents. It's definitely a shared responsibility.
And finally, Section 5, balancing the financial burden. Let's talk about fairness in family law.
Let's look at the practical math the courts use, because the law really tries to perfectly balance the needs of the child with fairness to the parents. The demand on the parents has to be fair, realistic, and proportionate. So first, the court calculates the total cost of the university tuition. Second, and this is absolutely crucial, they deduct any expected government loans or scholarships that the student is legally obligated to try and secure. Finally, the remaining balance is apportioned fairly between the parents. The father's or the mother's share of the tuition is only calculated after taking those available government loans into account.
So, we've seen today that the law really does ensure young adults get their university education without placing a totally unfair financial burden on their parents, whether it's using special circumstances in Kenya or the Matrimonial Causes Act in Nigeria. But I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. If the law demands that your parents continue to support your education well into adulthood, what is your personal and legal duty to ensure your family's financial survival? Are you really doing everything in your power, like securing loans and grants to pull your own weight? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will catch you in the next Explainer.